warm welcome to all the participants. I can see 68 plus few more. And welcome to this episode of Value Talks, where we have invited Advocate Vardhan, who has been advocating, who is a advocate practicing at AFT Delhi and Lucknow, and he's from prestigious Symbiosis Law College. So Vardhan, a warm welcome to you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure, as always, to be here.
Okay. So today we are going to touch upon a very, very important topic, as you would have seen in the form, right? So it is about disability pension. So before we actually dive on the topic, so let's start a little bit from where actually Vardhan is coming from. So Harsh, can you share about your background, and out of so many specializations that was available, what made you choose this particular specialize in disability cases, pension?
Well, sir, once I graduated from college, so I joined a law chamber of an advocate who was a retired army officer, and his name was Colonel Rakesh Choudhary. He was practicing in AFT Lucknow at that time. And once I joined his office, that was my first law office that I joined. And he's the one who taught me everything about the Armed Forces Tribunal, the various types of cases that go on in the AFT, the court martials, etc., etc. So this is how I came about in this field. It also helped that I come from an army family. My father was in the army. He's a retired army officer. So it helped me in giving me some orientation as to how the cases in an armed forces tribunal work. And that has helped me immensely in gaining some experience and getting me this opportunity to work for armed forces officers and soldiers and get them some justice.
Okay, great to know that. तो कहीं ना कहीं आपका भी जो है फौजी लिंक है. I think that was one of the important reasons that actually made you come into this particular part of your profession. Good. So can you just tell us how long have you been in this particular thing, and what has been your experience till now? कैसा रहा आपका experience dealing with this particular thing?
So I have been in practice for about a decade now, and though we start working with lawyers during our law college days, while we are still students, we go for annual internships, and in the final year of law school, we generally spend at least 6 months to 12 months attached to a lawyer's office as a full-time internship. So though I had been frequenting AFT prior to becoming or qualifying as an advocate, but post qualifying as an advocate, I spent nearly 10 years now in the Armed Forces Tribunal, in the high courts, district courts. And my experience so far with AFT in particular has been very pleasant. Because compared to the earlier remedies that soldiers and officers had, which was of approaching the honorable high courts, the AFT has been a relatively quick and more efficient remedy compared to any other remedy available to our brethren. And though there are some, you can say that there are some issues in the functioning of AFT as well, but compared to the earlier dispensation of going to constitutional courts, AFT is a much quicker, relatively cheaper, and more efficient system of adjudication for the personnel subject to various service acts like Army, Navy, and Air Force.
Okay. The people who are actually listening to this, some of them actually could be very novice, जिनको इसके बारे में ज़्यादा idea नहीं होगा, right? कि disability pension होता क्या है? So let's start from the basic then, right? So can you tell us about what are the various criteria that is required to be eligible for this disability pension? क्या है ऐसे criteria?
So, in a nutshell, बहुत ज़्यादा criteria नहीं है. At the very heart of the matter, just 2-3 चीजें होती हैं जो which are taken into account while deciding whether a person will be eligible or not eligible for the grant of disability pension. Now, I am stating as per the rule and legal position. In practice, these things may be a little different. Since we all know that in recent times, there has been a concerted effort from part of various stakeholders in the MOD or at various service headquarters to deny disability pension to each and every affected individual. So there is an effort. So no doubt, the practice is in a little variance with the rule and legal position. But we will, sir. I think we will stick to what the rule position says and what the legal position says on this. As per my understanding and as per the rule position, uh, one has to have a disability at the time of retirement, release, or discharge, as the case may be. One needs to be assessed for a disability. That disability should carry a disablement percentage of 20% or more. So that means a minimum of 20%. And that disability or that ailment or disease, whatever, or injury, should be somehow connected to your military service. That is to say that there should be some causal connection with your military service of, let's say, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, whatever period that the service member has spent in the military services. So that onset of that injury or disability should have some connection. It can't be a totally unconnected or totally disconnected disease, and then we expect that disability pension will be given to me. That is not how it works. So these are the two most important criteria: 20% disablement and connection or causal connection to service, जो release medical boards हैं उसको express करते हैं as whether it is attributable to or aggravated by military service. So one of these criteria of attributability or aggravation should be there, and 20% should be there. These are the two broad main criteria for getting disability pension.
Okay, so what we understand is basically देखा जाए तो criteria उतना complex नहीं है. There was just two of them, as you said, कि एक है कि 20% criteria meet होना चाहिए, और दूसरा है that whatever the ailment or the disability was there, basically it needs to be attributed to the service. कहीं ना कहीं connection दिखना चाहिए, then only it becomes eligible to be classified into this disability pension criteria.
Yes. So I would like to add that today since we are discussing disability pensions, this is with respect to the earlier regime which was existing prior to September 2023. So the Guide to Medical Officers of 2002, as amended in 2008, and the entitlement rules of 2008. So जो भी मैं ये कह रहा हूँ सर आपसे, and whatever we are discussing today, this will be as per that. Recently, we all know the new Guide to Medical Officers and new entitlement rules have been promulgated. So the system has substantially changed. So today we are not on that topic. We are on the earlier one, just for the benefit of all the viewers.
Okay. Thanks for clarifying that. Okay. Now, having said that, उतना complex तो नहीं लगता है, but as you said, but we keep hearing कि काफी लोगों के, after being there in the service की कठिनाइयों की वजह से, people get various degrees of disability. तो कहीं ना कहीं उनको challenges मिलती हैं, right? Even though frameworks are there, rules हैं, policies हैं, process हैं, but फिर भी कहीं ना कहीं veterans को लगता है कि challenges हैं, इतने आसानी से नहीं मिल पाता है. So can you just tell us what are the common challenges या obstacles जो आपने अभी तक देखा है veterans के केस में, ये disability pension apply करते वक्त क्या challenges generally उनको face करना पड़ सकता है?
Common challenges की बात करें सर तो I think number one challenge ये है कि रिलीज मेडिकल बोर्ड हो चुका है एंड उसकी फाइंडिंग्स भी आ चुकी हैं. रिलीज मेडिकल बोर्ड ने 20% से ज्यादा या 20% असेस किया है परसेंटेज ऑफ डिसेबलमेंट को, और या तो एग्रेवेटेड बाय सर्विस कंसीड किया है या फिर एट्रीब्यूटेबल टू सर्विस कंसीड किया है. नाउ दिस इज अ रिलेटिवली गुड पोजीशन टू बी इन. देयर आर केसेस व्हिच आर मच वीकर देन दिस. ये सिचुएशन जो मैंने डिस्क्राइब करी, दिस इज अ गुड सिचुएशन. हाउएवर जो कॉम्पिटेंट अथॉरिटी है, which is DGA, FMS and AG's branch, despite the service member having this, meeting the criteria of 20% and having some causal connection, they still deny disability pension on some extraneous reasons, for some unknown reasons, without any logic or without any rationale to it. This is number one. This is the most common challenge that I see. Secondly, the second most frequently and commonly seen challenge for Army, Navy, and Air Force officers and men is that the release medical board will assess you as 20% or more, but will then hold that disability to be not connected with service. In technical parlance, it is called as NA, NANA, neither attributable nor aggravated. So your disability may have a causal connection, but due to influence or whatever you may call it, the medical boards, the release medical boards, will hold it to be NANA, NANA. So that becomes a challenge. Then we have to fight it out in the AFT. It becomes a little more complicated, little more cumbersome for the affected person to obtain relief. These are the two most commonly seen, though there are many more challenges, sir, but ये सबसे ज़्यादा frequently or commonly.
Okay, yes. See, what I believe is जब तक हमको awareness नहीं होगी with respect to the legal proceedings, the processes, the rules and all, then actually it becomes difficult to know कि what is the right course of action. तो first level में हमें awareness होना जरूरी है किसी भी चीज में, and then second step is basically then deciding okay how do we go about it, right?
Right.
So with that sense, can you just tell us what is the legal framework? अगर हम legal framework की बात करें, right? तो legal framework जो disability pension को govern करता है in the Indian Armed Forces. So what
Yes.
would you actually say about that?
So legal framework काफी robust है, first of all, and it is, I would say, a very fair and impartial process that is adopted. So I will describe, broadly speaking, how the system works and what is to be done initially and step by step what is to be done. So first of all, sir, what happens is that once a person retires or is about to retire, the RMB has already taken place, and it is through the proper service channel, it reaches the competent authority for their initial adjudication. So that is the first step. As I told you earlier, that what happens is that even if RMB has conceded attributability or aggravation, given 20%, फिर भी AG's branch or DGFMS level पे वो deny हो जाता है. So this is where that happens, initial adjudication stage. So initial adjudication होता है सबसे पहले. उसमें, as we have commonly seen nowadays, so in the last few years, लगभग सभी cases को reject कर दिया जाता है on one ground or the other. Sometimes no ground is given. You are lucky if you are given some ground, if you're given some reason for rejection, whether it is logical or illogical, that is a separate issue. But in some cases, they don't even give any reason. They just write simply, it is rejected. You are found ineligible for grant of disability pension. So this is the first step. Once you receive this letter or this order, the appropriate remedy is to file a first appeal. Now, first appeal is filed with the ACFA, Appellate Committee on First Appeals. It is routed through your respective record office. For soldiers, it will be your respective regimental records. And for officers, it will be ORO, Officer Record Office. For Air Force and Navy, there's a slightly different system. But broadly speaking, we will cover Army for now. It is more or less similar for other services, that it has to be routed through a particular agency of your service headquarters, sent to Appellate Committee for First Appeals. Now, this committee is supposed to, in theory, consider the appeal on merits and then give a finding. I would like to add, sir, that there is sometimes a decent chance, sometimes, that you will get some relief from a first appeal. If your first appeal is drafted properly, comprehensively, covering your facts as well as legal aspects of the case, there is a decent chance that you might get some relief if somebody pays attention and somebody properly appreciates your case. But unfortunately, that is a very rare occurrence. So most of the times, the first appeal also gets rejected. After the first appeal is rejected, now as per the rule position, you are supposed to file a second appeal. Now that is filed again, routed through the same regimental record or officer record office (ORO) and sent to Defense Minister's SACP, Second Appellate Committee on Pensions. So again, the same procedure applies, that they have to apply their mind, they have to give due consideration. Your second appeal also should be ideally comprehensively drafted. It should not be a 2-paragraph, 1-pager application stating simply that I'm not satisfied with the outcome and please reconsider. That will not yield any result. So second appeal is filed, and then thereafter, if second appeal also doesn't get you the desired result, then we go to AFT. Now, AFT takes its own time. I think we'll discuss later in this talk how and what happens in AFT. So broadly speaking, these are the three steps to obtaining justice. And I would like to add, for the benefit of our viewers, that in some AFTs, including AFT Principal Bench at New Delhi, one can approach even after first appeal has been rejected without having to mandatorily go through the second appeal stage. Now, second appeal stage takes some time. It takes 5, 6, 7, 8 months, whatever. And mostly, if your first appeal has been rejected, second appeal is also more or less certain that it will be rejected. That is my experience so far, and the experience of my fellow advocates and other practitioners has been similar. So, in some AFTs like Delhi AFT, you can straight away approach the AFT after first appeal and save that 6 to 8 months period of that time that you will otherwise spend waiting for an outcome.
I think it was a very informative discussion that we had with Advocate Harshvardhan today, जहाँ पर हमें discuss किया कि अगर disability pension में कुछ problem है, right? So how do we go about filing that first appeal? उसमें क्या जाना चाहिए and what is the importance of putting up that first appeal in case first appeal reject हो जाता है, तो what are the provisions for the second appeal? और अगर वो भी रिजेक्ट हो जाता है, then how do we go to AFT? And AFT में क्या process है? OA, वो legal cell, registry, and then dates. So we have basically seen in totality कि क्या major steps है अगर किसी को disability pension के regarding कुछ process करना है, and even after किसी को favorable judgment मिल जाता है, so that is not the end. Right, there are still process, still steps हैं ताकि वो finally जब तक आपके account में पैसे नहीं आने लग जाते हैं, corrigendum PPO issue नहीं हो जाता है, तब तक this process will actually go on. Right. So I think it catered to different kind of audience. हो सकते हैं कुछ totally novice होंगे with respect to this particular topic. किसी को हो सकता है थोड़ा सा ज्यादा knowledge है. और कुछ हो सकते हैं कि they are fighting their or they have put up their appeal at various levels. So irrespective of with what level you were, I think आज का जो हमारा discussion हुआ एडवोकेट हर्षवर्धन से, ये कहीं ना कहीं सभी के लिए हेल्पफुल रहेगा. And as we said, the first part is being aware about the processes, the framework जो चाहिए, so that हो सकता है अपने को जरूरत नहीं है, but if we have that right information, we can always share with the other people who may be in need of those information. Right? And Harshvardhan is definitely there to provide any professional help if anybody is seeking, which he says that people can do on their own also. But if you can always have a professional help that can make the thing move faster, then why not? So on that note, thank you so much, Harshvardhan, for being here for this particular talk.
You gotta focus on yourself, on your faith, on your dreams, on your mind.